Good evening, everybody. Grace and peace. Give you just a little bit more time to get settled in. While you're doing so, if you would, let's go ahead and like, tag, and most of all, let's make sure that we share this session tonight. Great to see you all. All of you that are already on, glad to have you. So as you're coming in, again, let's make sure that we share this session tonight. We are right here on our Facebook page, and we're also streaming live on our YouTube channel. All right. So thank you once again for your support, for considering this ministry tonight. Pray that you have all been having a blessed and a prosperous day. But we're just about ready to get started. Good evening to everybody. We welcome your input, your feedback, your responses. All of that is greatly appreciated also for this Bible study session. Give you time to get settled in, turn your heaters up a little bit. It's that time of year. And if I'm not mistaken, I think my wife told me that the time goes back this weekend, if I'm not mistaken. Somebody may want to post that and let me know. Came to me again today when we got up this morning. Seasons change. So the seasons are definitely changing, and notice how we're all making the necessary adjustments to the changing season. So I pray that you're making the adjustments in the seasonal changes of your life as well. Time to bundle up or take some things off, depending on what season you're in. Thank you, Sister Paula. It does fall back this weekend. So we're actually going to gain an hour. Great to have you all tonight. Falls back an hour Saturday night at 2 a.m. So y'all be mindful of that as we prepare for our Sunday service. That's going to be at the Central Square Complex. Okay, I'll talk a little bit more about that in just a moment, or I should say at the end of this session tonight. But we are going to be involved and participating in our community-wide church service on this coming weekend, this coming Sunday. So set your times accordingly, and let's be prepared for our Sunday service. All right. So I think we're pretty much where we need to be. Just hang around for just a moment. At the conclusion of this lesson tonight, we're going to make just a few announcements in addition to what we've already mentioned. We're also going to announce the winner of our trunk or treat participants, the contest we had on this past weekend. We're going to announce the winner for that as well. Again, thank you all for your contributions, your support, all of your efforts that went towards making this past fall festival a success. So we had a wonderful time. Had a great turnout. The fundraiser aspect was productive as well. So thank you for patronizing and supporting that event. Stay tuned for more to come in the future. So thank you all for that. Hope you all had a wonderful time. All right. We're going to go ahead and jump right in. Just want to bring up a few things that we didn't get a chance to cover on this past Sunday. We're still dealing with this theme, this idea, this vein that we're in from the Lord on being purposed. Okay, being purposed. So I pray that this has been a blessing so far. This is definitely not anything necessarily new that we've covered, but it's something that we definitely want to revisit as the Lord give us further insight on that word purpose and what does that look like and what does that mean to us, to you and I as believers. I don't know if I mentioned this on this past Sunday, but one thing that we can definitely highlight about that word purpose is that there is a consistency about that word. When you hear that word purposed, one thing that should stand out to you is that it should look like or remind you of a type of consistency. And we'll see that in just a moment. We talked about the life of Daniel, his Babylonian name Belteshazzar, and also Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego, their Babylonian names, Hananiah, Mishael, and Azariah. As we covered just a little bit of their life coming out of Jerusalem into captivity, what you could see throughout their narrative is that there was a consistency that you could not deny. That there was just a consistency about their stance as to who they were as a people of Israel, a representation of the people of Israel at large. There was just a consistency about their lives that you just couldn't ignore. And I was just thinking about that even on today, beyond Sunday and up until today, that is an attribute that I'm praying that we are desiring and displaying as believers. That no matter what the environment is, no matter what the situation may be, things may change around us. There may be inconsistencies all around us. But my prayer is that there be a consistency as to who we are, a consistency, a constant as it relates to who and what resides in us. Okay, so when everything else you can't depend on it's not predictable. They talk about how in life there are no guarantees. Well, there's one guarantee. There's one thing that we can definitely bank on. And God says, He says, I'm God and I change not. And that simply means there is a dependability. There is a consistency about the God that we love and serve that keeps us where we need to be, and it keeps us moving in the direction that He desires us to go in. So no doubt that even today, there may have been a few things that have taken place, maybe some circumstances that caught you off guard, things you didn't plan on necessarily. But one thing that I pray that out of all that had happened or may happen, when the smoke clears and the dust settles, I pray that there is a consistency about your walk. I talked about, being a worshiper and a praiser. There should be a consistency about your praise. That when times are good, your praise should look the same even when times are bad. Why? Because there's never a time that God is not or has not been good. So there should be a consistency, a constant about our walk, our posture as believers. So what are we saying? We are people of purpose. We are purposed. And we see that lesson when we look at the life of Daniel. And tonight we're going to take a look at their Babylonian names, Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego. All right. So hang around for just a moment. After we're done, we're going to make a couple of announcements. And then we're also going to announce the winner of the trunk or treat decoration part of the fall festival that we had on this past Sunday evening. All right. So great to have you all again. Let's jump right in. So we're going to pull our screen up here. And again, we are talking about being purposed. We are talking about being purposed. Now, let me see if I can get this first one up here. we're going to take a look at Daniel chapter 3. And I think I've already put it up there. Let's turn the chat off. So I want to make sure I got this where I need to have it. Okay, let's do this. There we go. All right, now we got it. All right, Daniel chapter 3. And we're going to take a look at some selected verses out of this chapter. Now, we just came out of, like I said earlier, we just came out of the accounts of Daniel as he came out of the land of Israel from Jerusalem. And we took a look at how he handled certain issues when they came his way, and how he displayed his life of being a man, or a young boy for that matter. He was about 15 years old, being a young boy, a young man, if you will, of purpose. So now we're going to take a look at the life of Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego, their Babylonian names, of course. So verse 1 says, King Nebuchadnezzar made a gold statue 90 feet tall and 9 feet wide, and set it up on the plain of Dura in the province of Babylon. Now, let's just take a moment right here immediately for this verse. If you look at the magnificence of this gold statue, how impressive it is, even by today's standards. This is impressive. It is something that is very eye-catching, if you will. It is something to talk about. To some, even it would display a type of power and influence. Someone who would have the type of resources just to build this type of structure, to have the type of that level and number of manpower at his disposal to build something of this magnitude. So I want to paint a picture here, give you just a backdrop as to where we're going and why this matters to you and I today. So King Nebuchadnezzar made this gold statue of this magnitude, 90 feet tall and 9 feet wide. And then he placed it in a place where it could be easily seen. Now keep that in mind. This was a display. He was flexing, if you will. So remember that part, because it's going to really be important as we go on to the next verses. So now when he built this statue, he made his officers, all the officials, they came to this dedication of this magnificent statue, of this accomplishment by King Nebuchadnezzar. So there's all this hoopla, all the pomp and circumstance, all of this. It made front page news, if you will. So this is the latest news. King Nebuchadnezzar has made this 90 feet tall statue. He's called in all of the dignitaries, all the officials. And one of the officials, one of the heralds, came and made this decree. Anyone, when they hear the sounds of these musical instruments, we'll take a look at in just a moment, they were to bow before this structure. They were to bow before, let me say this part, they were to bow before this structure, this thing that was constructed by man. That is very key. That is very important. They were to bow before the accomplishments, if you will, of man. I'll say that one more time because it's going to really matter in just a moment. When they heard the musical instruments played, they were expected to, as a matter of fact, they were commanded to bow before this magnificent structure that was put together, constructed by the hands of man. Keep that in mind. So now we've come to the point where the musical instruments were played, and there were these particular boys who did not respond to the music. They didn't respond in a way that they were supposed to respond. So, as a matter of fact, look at what the officials came and told King Nebuchadnezzar. King Nebuchadnezzar, they said, you issued a decree requiring all the people to bow down and worship the gold statue when they would hear the sound of the horn, the flute, the zither, the lyre, the harp, the pipes, and other musical instruments. That decree also states that those who refuse to obey must be thrown into a blazing furnace. And I like this part right here. But, and I love this part. I hope this is some of you. I hope this is some of us. But there are some Jews, Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego, whom you have put in charge of the province of Babylon. They paid no attention to you, your majesty. They refuse to serve our gods and do not worship the gold statue that you have set up. Now, this is a significant part in this chapter, in these texts, or this text. This is a very important part. You got to understand that there was already some level of hostility, a little bit of, now I don't say a little bit, there was already some resentment there towards these boys. Notice how they brought out the fact that Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego, they put this in there, the ones you have put in charge of the province of Babylon. Now, I hope you can hear the resentment there. I hope you can even hear the envious tone to what they're saying. So don't think that everybody was okay with the fact that they came from a foreign land and that they were exalted and placed in such a high position in the kingdom. So there was some level of contention there. So they were more than glad. They were more than glad to go and tell King Nebuchadnezzar about their defiance towards the decree that was made that they were to bow before this magnificent statue that was representative of not only the power and influence of the kingdom, but the power and influence of the God that they served as well. So Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego, who you have put in charge of the province of Babylon, they pay no attention to you, your majesty. They refuse to serve your gods and do not worship the gold statue you have set up. Again, I hope you all are noticing the consistency. Y'all see that? And that consistency, the purpose that is on their lives. I said this Sunday, I can't remember exactly when or what part of the service that I said this. Might have been during the time that we were making the altar call. But notice how even in this verse, purpose gets you noticed for good or either for bad. Remember at the beginning when we said Nebuchadnezzar in chapter 2 or 1 or 2, it said that how King Nebuchadnezzar wanted the best of the captives that came from the land of Israel out of Jerusalem. And I said that this past Sunday that oftentimes it is our kids, it is you and I for that matter, because to be purposed is to be attractive, and not all attention is good attention. So just keep that in mind. When you are a person of purpose, it's attractive, and that simply means that it draws attention, and we have to be mindful of that. So if you are a person, you know yourself to be a person of purpose. That's something you got to embrace as a child of God. You know yourself to be a person of purpose. You are purposed in this life as a representative of God and his kingdom. Then to be purposed is to be attractive. That is, it draws attention. And some of that attention that is drawn to you is not always good attention. So you got to know how to discern between the two. So once again, we see how these three boys of purpose have gotten the attention of King Nebuchadnezzar. They've drawn attention, because when you are purpose, when you take a stance, when you have standards, when you set boundaries, it goes further. When you are a person that walks in that type of way, then it is going to draw attention. And sometimes that attention that you draw was meant to take you down, was meant to take you out, was meant to cause you to lower your standards, to compromise in certain areas of your life as a believer. And this is what they were hoping. They were saying, well, into themselves, I believe, well, we got them now. These boys, they think they all that, coming in here from a foreign land and now they're in this high position. But watch it. But now we got them. And I want you to understand that oftentimes that this is the exact approach of the enemy, the influence of the kingdom of darkness. Oh, I got you now with this situation. Oh, we got their backs to the wall. They're going to compromise now. All that they said they stood for, all the things that they claimed and all those things that they've been praying about and say they've been believing God for. Now we've got their back against the wall, and surely they will compromise now. Surely they will bow now when they see, watch this, what's up against them, what's coming against them, or what they're up against. So they already had in their mind, you can almost hear the arrogance in their presentation, in their messaging to the King Nebuchadnezzar. So we see verse 13. So when King Nebuchadnezzar heard this, the scriptures say that he flew into a rage and ordered that Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego be brought before him. And he, in this dialogue that he had with them, he's told them, he said, now, is this true what I've heard? He said, now, I'm going to give you one more chance to clear this up. And I'm paraphrasing because we don't have time to go through the entire chapter. I'm going to give you one more time to get things straight, because surely what they're telling me, it can't be true. So now that I got you before me, I want y'all to hear this now. I want you to hear how things go down sometimes. So when I get them and they're face to face with me, I want y'all to see this now. I hope y'all seeing this already. When I get these three boys face to face with me, then surely they're going to change their story. Surely they're not going to come in my presence and still have that same talk, the same belief, the same faith, the same trust. See, now I get it that they may have had this attitude, this confidence, if you will, to not bow before a statue. But now I'm almost positive that when I summon for them and when I tell them to come stand right before me in my face, surely they're not going to continue with this same old story, with this same old trust and belief in a God that surely can't deliver them out of this. Does that sound familiar? You ever came face to face with a situation? And I just believe that oftentimes that the enemy expects us to change our tune, to compromise, to want us to try to see how we can get out of it. But when you are a man or a woman of purpose, there is watch this, a consistency about your testimony. There is, and there should be a consistency about your stance for the Lord. That whether it's a statue or whether I'm standing face to face with my problem, whether it's before a statue or if I'm face to face right up on that situation, where it's in the last quarter, the last seconds, and I don't have any seemingly way out of this thing. Have you ever been in that situation? Have you ever felt like your back was literally against the wall sometimes? Like you didn't have any other way out. You didn't have any place to go. You got the news. You were praying. You were believing. You were trusting God. It was 3 months away. You're still believing God. Now it's 2 months away. You're still believing God. And now it's the week of, and now you're face to face with that thing. Does your trust, does your faith, does your praise still look the same as it did 3 months ago versus how it looks now that you're face to face with King Nebuchadnezzar? I'm telling you, that thing did something to me right there. As I was looking over this, the Lord said, he said, now that you're face to face with that thing, is there still going to be a consistency in your testimony? Do you still trust God? Do you still believe that God can and will come through? Let me ask somebody this question tonight. Let me just take a quick survey. Now that you're at the last minute, now that you're face to face with that thing, it looked like absolutely nothing has changed. As a matter of fact, it seems like things have gotten worse. Do you still have the same testimony? Do you still trust God? I want to take a survey real quick. Do you still believe that God can? Do you still believe that he will make a way? If you are a person of purpose, then there will and there should be a consistency about your testimony, even when you are face to face with King Nebuchadnezzar himself. Look at the reply. And I want you to notice your reply. He's face to face. They're face to face with King Nebuchadnezzar. This is the last quarter. It's the bottom of the ninth, full count. And you're up to bat. You're down by one. Running on base. If you know sports, this is what it's looking like. I want you to notice their response. Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego replied, "O Nebuchadnezzar, we do not need to defend ourselves before you." Y'all, didn't that just bless y'all when y'all read that? They are face to face before the king. And here's their response. And I'm going to put it in layman's terms. We don't have to explain ourselves. We're not going to stutter. We're not going to stumble in what we said, what we've stood for. We're not intimidated. We're not the least bit worried about your idle threats, if you will. We could care less about what could possibly happen to us. We do not need to defend ourselves before you. We're not changing our testimony. We're not changing our story. As a matter of fact, if we are thrown into the blazing fire, we believe that the God whom we serve is able to save us. We believe that he will rescue us from your power, your majesty. And then the last verse for tonight, and I preached this on several occasions. But if he doesn't, I just want y'all to see the consistency of a person of purpose. But even if he doesn't, here's what we want people to know. Here's what we want people to remember. Here's what I want to be my legacy, if you will, our legacy. We want to make it clear to you, your majesty, that we will never serve your gods or worship the gold statue that you have set up. Isn't that powerful? At some point in time, you have to determine what kind of testimony that you want. At some point in time, you have to determine what kind of testimony you want. Here's what I mean. You know, oftentimes we want this testimony, before we get into certain things and our backs are against the wall. We're praying for the testimony that God changed things, that God made a way, that God delivered, that God healed. All of that is wonderful, and we should be believing and expecting those things. But what if, y'all see that? But what if things don't turn out the way that you would necessarily want them to turn out? What type of testimony do you want? Well, I want the testimony to be this: that I trust God no matter what the outcome may have been. That things did have turned for the worse, but my testimony is still this: we didn't bow. We didn't stop. We didn't give up. That I don't necessarily want the testimony that it went in my favor or worked in my favor all the time. Listen, not downplaying that is what we should expect. But there's also an equally impressive testimony. It is the testimony that says things didn't necessarily turn out like I thought they should, but I did not bow. I lost a few things. I lost some people. I lost some friends, lost some loved ones. But you know what? I still didn't bow. My testimony still hadn't changed as it relates to I still believe and I still trust God. Something just came to me. We had our first Glean session on yesterday evening. It had a wonderful turnout, very productive session. It was our introductory session. But there was something that was brought up during that session. And I was telling the group, I said, you have to be prepared. And I want somebody to really get this. When you're talking about being a person of purpose and having that consistency, sometimes your breakthrough, sometimes that thing that you need is to just have a simple no, just to tell some people, some situations, just say no. That's all you got to do. Now here's the point. And not only just to have the wherewithal and the strength to say no, but to also understand that when I say no, you could possibly lose some people and lose some things. That when I take a stance, that some things are not going to look the same. Some relationships won't be the same. I'm going to help somebody real quick tonight. By you taking a stance, by you being a person of purpose, by you just simply taking a stance and saying, no, I'm not, no, we're not going that way. No, I'm not getting involved with that. No, I'm not going along with that. Just by taking a stance, being a person of purpose and saying, no, this is where I'm drawing the line in the sand. Having the strength to do that is one thing, but there's another thing to understand that some things will not survive your no. I'm going to say that one more time. Understanding that some things, some people, some relationships will not survive your no. See, people hang around and certain things are sustained as long as you're compromising, as long as you're saying yes, as long as you're bowing, as long as when the music plays, you do the song and dance, as long as you're doing what people want you to do, things will stay intact. Certain people will still come around and call you their friend, but take a stance and say no. Some things won't survive. Some things, some relationships, some people won't survive your stance. They won't survive your no. You want to know what you really have? You want to know what environment, what kind of connections you really have? Take a stance. Take a stance. Walk in your purpose, and you'll find out a lot of things that you may have been wondering. A lot of situations, a lot of relationships you may have been questioning. And you're not going to find out what type of relationship, the integrity of those relationships, those connections, you're not going to find out what they're really made of unless you take a stance and stand up as a man or a woman of purpose. I'm going to say this one more time to somebody before I move on. Everything and everybody will not survive your no. Those things that can survive you saying no and taking a stance, those are the things, those are the people that were meant to be connected to you. Sometimes that's how you're going to find out what's what. That's how you're going to find out what's what. So that relates to the 3 Hebrew boys. Notice what they just said. We believe that God can deliver us. But as we take this stance, even if he doesn't, just know that we didn't bow to you. So even as I take a stance and say, no, I'm not, no, absolutely not. Even as I take that stance, some people may stay, some people may go. Some things may change, some things may not. But just know this, I didn't bow. I didn't bow. I didn't compromise. I didn't compromise who I was in God. I didn't compromise my beliefs, my integrity, who I am as a man of God, who you are as a woman of God. Some things won't survive. Some people, they won't survive when you be that person of purpose. So they said, King, we believe that God can deliver us. We believe that. But if by chance he doesn't, here's what we want you all to know about us when it's all said and done. That we were men of purpose to our last breath. That's what I'm praying and believing God for. More than anything, more than stuff, more than situations per se. But I'm praying that God would continue to grace us, that we will continue to embrace more and more who we are as people of purpose. The fire may be hot. It may be intense right now. Your backs may be against the wall. The odds may look like they're against you. But take a stance anyway. Lean into who you are as a person of God, a person of purpose. Lean into that. Don't be intimidated because you are face to face with the King. I know it's right up on you, but still trust God. And I know it may not necessarily always work out the way you think it ought to work out, but just maintain your posture, maintain your integrity. See, we can't just want one side of the 3 Hebrew boys' testimony. That one side of their testimony is them coming out of this fiery furnace not even smelling like smoke. You can't just desire to have that side of their testimony. There was a cause and effect to this thing. It was the other side of the testimony that created the other side. It was this side of the testimony where they said, we're not going to bow. The furnace is hot. We're surrounded and it looks like the odds are against us. We're in a foreign land. I mean, just how much more could things go wrong in this situation? But before they even got into the furnace, they took a stance. Before they ever got to the furnace, they already knew who they were. Now, let me just tell somebody this in my conclusion. Before trouble comes, and if you live in this life, it's not doom and gloom, but it's just facts. At some point in time, we're going to face trouble. Jesus said in this world, we're going to have trouble. So let me just say this to you. Embrace who you are before trouble comes. It's hard, as I said one Sunday, it's hard to try to find out and figure out and establish a relationship with God in the midst of the fire, in the midst of trouble. You have got to already have some things resolved. Some things have to already be established. You got to already have some type of resolution in your life before trouble comes. And I'll just say this last part too. Now we're coming up to 2024. If the Lord will hold this coming, we're coming up to 2024. You should have already made some resolutions. You should have already made some resolutions. 2023 should have already taught us some valuable lessons that have encouraged us, motivated us to have some resolutions. Some things should have already been resolved. You don't necessarily need the stroke of a clock to get you started. If you've lived it through anything, if you experience any level of trouble, frustration, whatever that may be, 2023 has had its share of challenges. So before 2024 comes in, go ahead and resolve in your mind who you are. I'm a man, I'm a woman of consistency and purpose. And I'm taking my stance now, even before I get to the furnace. All right. So I pray that this was encouraging. I pray that it was productive. I pray that it's something that you're going to make a part of your practical everyday lives, because life demands it. I mean, you're going to have it. It's not an option. You're going to have to be that person of purpose if you plan on navigating further through this thing that we call life. All right. So thank you all once again for lending us your time and giving us your attention. We do not take it lightly. Have just a few announcements, and then I want to pray and close us out. Want to remind you all of this coming Sunday. We will not be in house for our morning worship service this coming Sunday at 11 a.m. We will have Sunday school as usual, beginning at 9:30 a.m. and we'll conclude Sunday school at 10:45 as usual. And then we will be transitioning over to the Central Square Gym here in Douglas, Georgia for our community church service. All right. So the Lighthouse will not be having in-house service, morning worship service that is, on this coming Sunday, November the 5th. We will be downtown at the Central Square Gym for the community worship service. We're looking for a wonderful time in the Lord. So we encourage you all to come on out and be with us. I know there are a few churches that had other obligations, but they definitely have been sending their support and helping out in any other area that they could. We understand that you cannot necessarily accommodate everybody, but for the most part, the participation has been positive. The anticipation and everything else has definitely been geared towards the endeavor for this weekend, and that is to draw and emphasize unity in our community, creating people, men, women, boys, and girls of purpose, because that's what's going to change things. That's what's going to make things better in this community for God's glory. So if you can, please, man, please, sir, be with us on this coming Sunday downtown at the Central Square Gym for the community service. I'm not sure if they're going to be streaming this, so I don't really know what platform to direct you to. They may come up with that later on. We get the information as it is given to us. So we're doing our best to relay this message to you as well. So we thank you in advance. Thank you for your prayers concerning the community service coming up on this coming Sunday. And again, thank you all for your support to this ministry. We do not take it lightly. It is something that we know that you don't have to do, but we pray that we're being or have been a blessing to you in some type of way. We had a wonderful time again at our fall festival on this past Sunday evening, and without further ado, the people have spoken, and drum roll please. Our winner for the trick or trunk decoration part of the fall festival was none other than brother and sister Ronnie and Sophie Graham. Come on, y'all give them a celebratory response right there where you are virtually. All right. So I don't know if they're on tonight. I think they are. But if Sister Graham or Brother Ronnie Graham, if they could put their Cash App up in the comment section, we are going to give them the cash prize for that part of the fall festival. And we're going to shoot that to you tonight. So we can have you post your Cash App. We will get that to you tonight. All of you that participated, very creative. I mean, a lot of effort went into those decorations, and it was very, 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 very creative. We posted a few pictures of them on our page, so if you haven't had a chance to go take a look at them, go take a look at all the effort that went into those decorations. And again, it made that event that much more meaningful and create that much more of a time for everybody to have. All right, so congratulations, brother and sister Ronnie Graham. If you would, y'all can go ahead and post your Cash App name here on the comment or in the comment section. If they're not on tonight, I'm not sure if they're still on. They can definitely get that to me, and we'll make sure we get that cash prize to them. All right, so thank you all again for tuning in tonight, for your continued support as we move forward as a ministry, as a local body. Thank you in advance. Father, we appreciate you tonight for your grace, your support, your encouragement, your enlightenment, all those things that only you can do. So we just thank you for being aware of us, being concerned about us. Thank you for allowing us to have the purpose life that we've been talking about. You said in your word, it said you were talking to children of Israel. You said that you were once not a people, which now you are a people. And it's all because of the finished work of your son, Jesus, that made all of this possible. I pray that tonight has been productive. I pray that tonight is something that will influence us from here to eternity. We honor you tonight. We pray for the service coming up on Sunday in advance. Let your glory fill the house. May your spirit direct and orchestrate everything that's going to be said and done from the beginning to the conclusion of the service. I pray that we are better and will be better because of this weekend's gatherings and events. You be glorified, and may people be edified and strengthened is our prayer. And we pray this in your son, Jesus' name. And all the purpose people said, amen. All right. So there they are right there. So brother and sister Ronnie Graham, congratulations again. We got your cash app right there, and we're going to shoot you that cash prize in just a moment as soon as we sign off. Grace and peace, everybody. Again, we will not be in service in-house at the Lighthouse. Join us at the Central Square Gym right here in Douglas, Georgia for our community church service. Y'all have a great night. Grace and peace, everybody.